Hello. Today, something a little bit different. We're going to look at one of my painted kill teams. So this kill team started off as a kill team for Kill Team 2018. Originally it had the 4 stealth suits and the 2 drones. That was a legal kill team for Kill Team 2018. I don't recall I ever got that many games in with them. But it was one of the first kill teams that I did when that system launched, and you can actually find a video, really old video, one of the earliest videos on the channel, this is kind of a remastering of that original video. I'll leave the original video up for posterity, but it's really awful sound quality and I say some really strange things. But yeah, so this is my Tau stealth suit kill team, and I've updated it. I've painted 2 more models for it recently, updated it when the Kill Team 21 rules came out, and now it's 2 stealth suit fire teams, so 6 suits is a perfectly legal team, and then you've got the option of swapping in the 2 drones instead of one of the suits if that's something that you want to do. What's really interesting about this team for me is that usually I'm somebody, as you'll see when I do, or if I do some more of these showcase videos, I'm usually somebody that takes their inspiration from within the Games Workshop universe. I usually try and make something look like what it's meant to look like, so the Order of Our Martyred Lady or a particular Imperial Guard regiment or something like that. But when it came to the Tau, actually drew my inspiration from outside the Games Workshop universe, which I know is some people that's how they prefer to paint, but for me that's quite novel to draw outside inspiration. So the obvious comparison is Tron. I've actually never seen Tron. Obviously I'm familiar with they look like Tron. You've got the Tron highlights going on. I'm familiar with that image that I'm showing on the slide and what that looks like. And obviously the sort of stark blue panel lines are very reminiscent of that style. But really, the first thing that came to me was to do the kind of white ceramic armor. And the blue, it wasn't always going to be blue. It might at one point have been black. It might have one point been green. It might have one point been purple. It was actually the white ceramic armor that came first, and that's very much kind of inspired by a couple of animes that I used to be really into anime when I was a lot younger. And the original 1985 Ghost in the Shell film, there's one of the early scenes where the protagonist has this really strange clean white combat armor, and that sort of image stuck with me. It's a very kind of unique thing because normally we think of armor and practical greys or greens and weathering and things like that, and this kind of juxtaposition of a really functional looking garment, but then the colour is really stylistic. There's also a fair amount of influence from End of Evangelion, the sort of cinematic finale they did for that anime, where they've got these robots called the mass production Evangelions that have this really sinister white and black look, and they look really, really clean, even though they are sort of fighting. And that, again, those things stuck with me as looking slightly incongruous and strange. So that's really where I got the inspiration for the colour scheme. So when we look at how I painted the miniatures, I think these are really interesting because it's a really a different way of painting. It was kind of experimental, kind of a concept thing. So the whole model, first of all, the miniatures were painted separately to their bases. So I mounted them on little clear bits of plastic and fully painted them on those clear bits of plastic, and then super glued them onto the painted bases right at the end of the process. So they were undercoated first of all with Army Painter Enchanted Blue Spray. So the entire miniature would have been blue, and then I used Corax White, or at least I used Corax White on the 2 I painted recently. I think originally I might have used Ulthuan Grey and had to do a few more coats, but basically used Corax White or Ulthuan Grey, a very, very light grey paint anyway, to layer on all the flat surfaces, all the panels. So in effect that the blue undercoat is now only showing in the recesses in the main, as well as kind of slightly tinting the white paint above, because the layer's not going to be quite opaque. And then I just went around all the panel lines again with, again, a 2 I painted recently, titanium white from Monument Hobbies. The ones I did originally, it must have been Skull White or White Scar or one of those white paints, but anyway, to go round them with a pure white. The faces and the gun barrels were then undercoated black and highlighted with Dark Reaper. The little eye lenses on the faces were undercoated with pure white, so titanium white or white scar or skull white, and then coloured with Gulliman blue glaze. If I was to do them again, I would probably use a contrast paint, but when I did the first 4, the contrast paints weren't out, and then when I did the next 2 to blend in with them, I decided to use up the same methods. I've still got my pots of glaze from before contrast paint came out, before Games Workshop discontinued the glaze paint, so that's how I did it. And then really the gimmick, if you want, the thing that makes these stand up as being strange and unusual, was the whole miniature is then sprayed with Rust-Oleum Crystal Clear, which is a really strong, thick gloss varnish that almost coats your entire miniature in plastic. And that gives them this kind of almost ceramic look. I think they look a lot like, you know, the sort of blue and white Delft pottery ceramic plates and things that you see sometimes. So there were some parts of the model that were painted differently. 2 of the miniatures on their legs, they have this piece of fabric around the knife, which would look strange if it was painted like the rest of the armour. So that was done in a really sort of standard recipe for sort of creamy fabric colour that I've used again and again and again on many miniatures. So that's you know, pretty standard stuff. Xandri Dust Undercoat, Agrax Earthshade wash, layer that up with a Shabty Bone, leaving the washed undercoat showing in the recesses, and then a little fine edge highlight of Screaming Skull. And then I brushed on some, I usually finish my miniatures with, you know, a Minotaur varnish with a satin varnish, right? So I brushed on some Storm Shield, which is Games Workshop's brush on satin varnish. And the bases are painted separately. So they're the Sector Mechanicus bases, undercoated with lead belcher, heavy wash with a little oil, wait for them to dry. We layer on the bronze onto the sort of the bronzy coloured sections, and various other colours just to pick out little wires and little tanks with random colours that I had to hand. Not particularly important, just one layer, no highlights. Wash the whole thing again with a heavy wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then we did dry brush of Ironbreaker across the top. And then some weathering, so Typhus Corrosion, which is like a slimy brown paint with little bits of grit in it that Games Workshop sell, one of their technical paints. Just dab that into the recesses and corners and things. A little bit of a dry brush once that's fully dry of Riser Rust, which is like a bright orange dry paint, which kind of tries to simulate the look of rust. And a little bit of Nicolic Oxide around the bronzy areas to try and make them look slightly weathered, and then those were given a top coat of Minotaurum varnish. So then when you put the model together, you glue the models back onto the base, and you get this kind of juxtaposition of the sort of base that looks like it's part of the terrain and part of the world, and is quite kind of grimy and dirty and in the normal kind of Warhammer 40,000 style, and then you've got this bright, shiny, very alien looking miniature on top of it. And you know, it's a quick paint job, it's not particularly skillful paint job, it's one of those paint jobs where the concept kind of carries the whole thing rather than any kind of brush skill. But it's something that I think is quite interesting. I think it's made, hopefully, it's made pretty good content, me sort of rambling about them. I don't know if I'll ever use them in Kill Team 21, frankly, especially not now the Pathfinder's out. But one thing I would say is that when I do get round to building the Pathfinders, obviously I've got the set of Pathfinders from my Chalnath box, I will be painting their armour in a similar style, and then their sort of fabric-y parts, their trousers and things, will be kind of a dark grey, so they'll have this look about them but a bit less of it, and then the dark grey fabric, and obviously the tau skin, the kind of grey-blue colour. Hopefully they'll look okay. Not in a rush to play any of these old Kill Teams, although it will be a good one, I think, to take. I'm you know, travelling at Christmas up north, trying to evangelise Kill Team to some friends of mine. I think that Tau Stealth Suits might be a pretty straightforward team to start learning the game with. It's not quite Space Marines, but there's not that many sort of extra rules and things to remember when you're playing 6 Stealth Suits. Let me know in the comments if you think that this style of video works for a sort of hobby showcase painting thing. I mean, if you want to go back, you've got my recipes up there on the screen. I watch a lot of painting content on YouTube, and I always find myself fast forwarding to the recipe bits. I don't actually want to particularly watch the painter move the brush on the model. I'm not presuming to try and teach you technique. I think that is something that you have to just learn by doing, right? But what I can just do is share my methods and recipes and things and how I did a particular thing. I hope to do more of these hobby focused, these sort of showcase videos. I'll probably try and put one of these out a week, so one of these out every week and a battle report every week, and then probably at least one other thing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up the pace of a video every single day, but we're going to try and get at least 3 videos a week. So one hobby video, the battle report, which I'm really looking forward to, should be tomorrow, and then at least one other thing. And I would say as well, this isn't a tactical recommendation. This is not a tactical kind of channel. This is a kill team channel with a really strong hobby focus. I don't know if 6 stealth suits is something that you'd ever want to run. Maybe it is. It looks on paper like it might be quite fun and quite strong, but I don't think I've heard of anyone running 6 stealth suits. People were talking about it back when we were kind of peering at scans of the compendium and trying to theory craft about what might be strong in Kill Team 21, but I don't think I've seen anybody actually try that in an event. I think the Pathfinders, especially now you've got the bespoke Pathfinder team, is far more compelling. If you want to see more of my work, my painted miniatures, there's a link to my Instagram or Twitter in the description. I say or because I replicate the same content on both Instagram and Twitter, so you only really need to follow one of them. If you want to follow both, you can, but people tend to have a social media platform they prefer. Otherwise, if you've liked the video, remember to click like. It kind of helps out. If you've got any questions or feedback, please leave me a comment. And if you want to see the rest of my videos and see any things that I would do in the future, press the subscribe button. I'm quite happy if we can get to 100 subscribers and I get a custom URL. That'd be pretty cool. Alright, thanks everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.